Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of KerVAM. It feels like it's been a very long time because it kind of has. I think our last podcast was in the middle of January when we were talking about the season 15 box set being announced. So firstly, I'm really sorry. It's mostly my fault that we just haven't been able to organise episodes recently. I've moved house and lots of things going on. But we are back. A new series of Doctor Who is here. And so we are back, the full team in full swing, ready to talk about 2 episodes of Doctor Who. I'm joined as always by Charlie, Ryan, and Bill. And Charlie, you were telling me you didn't even know that Doctor Who was coming out at midnight until halfway through yesterday. So you did watch them in the end, but it was a little bit of a last-minute job there.
Yeah, I've not been very in the loop with Doctor Who recently, which is really bad because we've got a new season and it's literally Russell T Davies again, and it's all just back. And yeah. I didn't realise it would be dropped at midnight. I watched both episodes like as soon as I found this out. I just saw, it's 1 p.m. I've got nothing to do. Let's just watch both Doctor Who episodes. Stuck on the Space Babies and the Devil's Chord, and then watched them again when they were on BBC later that night. So I've had enough time to sort of think about the 2 episodes because it was yesterday. Yeah. And I'm just going to drop this. I do think Space Babies is significantly better than the Devil's Chord.
Whoa. Jeez. Okay, we're going to have some controversy on this podcast.
Yeah. There's not really a consensus with these. Like, some people hate them, some people love them. There's no I don't really know what the average is here. It's just it's a bit all over the place, people's opinions. So you get some people loving Space Babies and hating the Devil's Chord, and the other way around, like you were saying, Elliot, no one really likes both of these. Yeah. It's very... Yeah. I'm not sure about you, Elliot. From Ryan and Bill, your reactions, you think the opposite?
Yeah. I will say... after watching Space Babies and going straight into the Devil's Chord, by the time we got to Devil's Chord, I was thinking, yeah, this is definitely more my jam, especially after coming after Space Babies. And I didn't even hate it, Space Babies. I'm just...
I didn't love either episode. I didn't love Space Babies. I didn't love either episode. Neither was Heaven Sent or even A Wild Blue Yonder. It was just... Yeah. I'd say Space Babies is a weak 8. And Devil's Chord is maybe a strong 6, something like that.
Okay.
I mean, there's actually, while those are close together, I've got it written down. So there's 306 Doctor Who stories. Yeah. Space Babies is 99th, and Devil's Chord is 221st. I think there's so many between that. There's so many that fall in that 7 out of 10 range that it just ends up being loads in between. But yeah, they're both kind of mid. Space Babies is better though, in my opinion. I mean, we'll get into the details of each episode, but I think for the most part, I'm just glad it's back, because at the end of the day, we haven't had a normal Doctor Who season in over 4 years. Yeah, literally. 2020 was the last proper series. 12 was the last proper series of Doctor Who. We obviously had Flux, but then specials and all of that. Yeah, so it's nice to just actually have normal, regular Doctor Who back again. It's just been kind of 3 specials here, 3 specials there. It's just we've not had this much Doctor Who in the year since 2020, which is pretty mental, because that's before this podcast and 4 years ago. Yeah, of course. Yeah, our podcast's been going over 3 years. We missed that anniversary, but happy 3 years to the podcast. So, Bill, did you get the opportunity to watch at midnight, or were you again picking it up later in the day?
I watched both when they came in the evening, actually.
Oh, you stayed up late?
Yeah, I managed to surprisingly avoid pretty much any spoilers, because I literally had to uninstall Twitter for most of Saturday. So yeah.
So you watched them on transmission on BBC One?
Yeah, it was actually quite good. I think I will be honest, if we'd have just had Space Babies this week, I think I would have been disappointed. So I feel like the Devil's Chord, in my opinion anyway, was the better episode of the 2. But they both kind of still got moments to enjoy. I think really Space Babies was, for me, just it was just a bit of fluff to start the season off with, and that was kind of it. It was literally just Russell had a mad idea about Space Babies and went, why not? Why not do that? And I don't know if it necessarily works that well. Like the CGI for some of the mouths, for example, did not look brilliant. But they did their best with it. I mean, it was all right. It was just it was very clearly just Russell thought it would be a real hilarious idea, and you could tell that by the amount of times the Doctor kept saying "space babies" and stuff. He couldn't just say babies; he had to specifically say "space babies." But yeah, it was fine. But the Devil's Chord was much better, I think, in my opinion, because it just had more going for it. It felt more like a standard Doctor Who story, which is weird because of the whole musical aspects to it. But yeah, it just it worked quite well. It was one that I was kind of looking forward to anyway, because obviously you've got the Beatles aspect and Jinx Monsoon as Maestro. And I think both those elements were done quite well. I know there was that controversy when the Beatles actors were revealed and everyone kept saying they looked nothing like the Beatles. But I feel like they actually did quite well. The ones that
was fine in the episode.
Yeah, the ones that are playing John Lennon and Paul McCartney were especially very good. The other two, sadly, were not really touched upon.
No, did they even have a line of dialogue? I don't think they did they?
No, I don't think so.
Beyond the song, it's just
yeah, that great song, that great song that we got.
Oh yeah, I love the dog.
It's terrible. Well, let's tackle the Space Babies, not the Space Babies. Space Babies first. Episode 1 of this season, but I feel like this is basically episode 2. Like because I think that the Church on Ruby Road is basically episode 1 of this season. Like, we know from what Russell said that originally that the series was meant to air immediately after the Christmas special. Like a week or two later, we were meant to go into Space Babies, but they ran out of time for special effects, so it got pushed back 4 months and all of that. And so I feel like if you look at it in context of Church on Ruby Road being that season opener and then going into Space Babies episode 2, I think that works fine. And you saw, and I feel like it almost feels kind of obvious with the whole like picking up immediately off the back of the Christmas special. Literally, the last scene, the Christmas special, is the first scene of Space Babies. It feels very much like it's the natural progression into episode 2, not this sort of big, exciting opening season premiere or anything. It feels like a very sort of more bog standard episode of Doctor Who, alongside having to tick off all the boxes of what's the TARDIS, what's the chameleon circuit, what's the TARDIS translation circuit, look, the phone scene from End of the World. Like, there's so much like dropping bits in that were necessary. And I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, Ryan, we'll come to you first. I know you're kind of leaning more towards this being the weaker of the 2 episodes. So I don't know. I'm sure. What did you like about this episode to start with?
Well, to get us down to it, I mean, I didn't hate it. I mean, I do think it's better than New Earth, because this might be a bit controversial, I'm not sure, but I was never a fan of New Earth. It never appealed to me at all. And I think this is slightly better than that. I mean, it is definitely better than that, but in comparison to the other RTD openers, it is definitely on the lower half. I mean, there are definitely some good moments. I think all the interactions between the Doctor and Ruby, their dynamic is really good. And those are the scenes that I enjoyed the most. And some of the speeches from the Doctor, Ncuti gives, I actually thought they were really well done. I mean, there's the moment where he's talking to one of the Space Babies and talking about how he's the only special one of that, how each special person is kind of their own person, and that's a superpower. I thought that was really well done. There's some really well written features in there, and I'll be honest, the first 5 or 10 minutes or so, I actually pretty enjoyed. Even though, if I was to compare this, I mean, doesn't really feel like an episode 2. I mean, episode 1. You've probably mentioned that Church of Ruby Road was sort of episode 1. This feels more like episode 1.5 to some extent. It feels like another episode 1, and in a way that kind of how I ultimately felt with Space Babies, is that it has to be another intro to it, because Church of Ruby Road was definitely the intro, sort of like how Church of Ruby Road sort of had to introduce the new era in the same way that Rose, The 11th Hour, and Woman Who Fell to Earth did. Get everyone up to speed. And this felt like another intro episode, and because of that, I did start to feel like we're sort of going through sort of the same rigmarole again. And in comparison to the Church on Ruby Road, I feel like the general main plot and thrust of the story doesn't really have as much intrigue to it as Church on Ruby Road did, because with the goblins, there was something sort of intriguing about how they operated. And of course, in the novelization, it's revealed that, and also in a deleted bit of dialogue, that they were part of the Toymakers Legions, and so leading into the whole plot arc. But whereas this, it just feels so mundane almost with the Space Babies. And yes, take a shot how many times the Doctor keeps saying Space Babies in this story. You're going to have a trip.
Literally does not stop the whole time. Space babies, space babies, space babies, space babies, space babies. Russell Clee just loves the phrase. Like, he just loves it, doesn't he?
Yeah, about halfway into the story, I was a bit like, is Russell keep doing this just for a purpose, or is he just doing this for the sake of it, trying to troll us to a certain extent? And in regards to the Space Babies themselves, I'm not going to lie, their CGI masks, it just really reminded me a lot of Baby Geniuses, the movie Baby Geniuses.
Okay, yeah.
I can't get that out of my mind. I was watching it, and at times it kind of looked a little bit Uncanny Valley almost, to a certain extent, and I'm just like, in the way the mouths are positioned and the way it's sort of moving, I was a bit like, and also some of the stuff later on, like the whole, with the bogeyman, of course it's made out of bogies. Yeah. I don't know if anyone else thought of this. It reminded me a lot of the Sandmen from Sleep No More, where they're sort of made out of mutated eye mucus. This is mutated snot, basically.
Yeah.
I'm just like, are you rehashing? It just felt like a bit of a rehash of the Sandmen from that story, almost a little bit. And of course, there's that one bit at the end where they managed to, because the ship can't move, but they managed to make it move by the power of the baby's flatulence. Yippee skippy. Just what?
Yeah.
I sort of put my head and just went like this as soon as that happened. But there are definitely some good moments. There are definitely, and I think that's sort of what helped boost it up a little bit and make it a 6 out of 10 for me. Like I said, some of those character moments between the Doctor and Ruby, and also some of the way how they managed to set things up a bit more for the season arc.
Yeah.
For this season, I will admit it has got me a little bit intrigued, although some of the stuff they set up in the Devil's Chord has me even more intrigued. So, but we'll get on to that.
yeah, absolutely. No, there's certainly some intriguing arc stuff going on. But Charlie, you obviously are a big fan of this. Well, a fan of this story, shall we say? Yeah. What do you think are the things that kind of work best, and what really made it like the better of the two for you?
I can't really put my finger on it that much. I just think it works. I just enjoyed myself watching this. It was just a fun one. I don't think it was written badly. It wasn't acted badly. There wasn't really anything I thought, wow, that's awful. But with Devil's Chord, I did not like some parts. Like, I actively disliked parts of it, and I was like, this is not too good. I didn't hate Devil's Chord either. It's still 6 out of 10. That's still fine. But I just think Space Babies, if you wrote the episode down and you like just gave me a summary of the plot, I'd be like, what is this? This is awful. But I think it's executed surprisingly well, given how bad the concept is. I think it's just Shooty and Millie are amazing. I'm absolutely sold on them. I think they're fantastic. Not the best Doctor companion duo ever, but they're up there. They're up there. They're really strong.
Yeah.
I think, it's mainly that Doctor Who's back, and it's just a nice return to form. I think as well the sci-fi setting helps because I like science fiction stuff that's like really out there, and Chris Chibnall's era didn't really do that much. If you look at the settings for like Series 12, it's just Earth.
Yeah.
Most of Flux,
Crazy,
it's Eve of the Daleks, Legend of the Sea Devils, Power of the Doctor,
the Star Beast,
the Giggle, Church and Ruby Road. There's a lot. And Devil's Chord.
Doctor Who quite like setting episodes on Earth, don't they?
Yeah, I think I don't mind a bit of Earth, but I love classic Who, especially like the Tom Baker era, in that it just goes away to really random places and they won't go to Earth for like 3 whole seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I say my favourite era of classic Who is Pertwee, but still, I like it when they go off of Earth. And
yeah, definitely.
I think the sci-fi setting really helps. I think, again, it is a strange episode to open with. I think it wouldn't work if it wasn't a double bill like it is. If it was just Space Babies, I'd still feel a bit, oh, okay, I guess another week and we'll get this one. I think the double bill works a lot better, and I think it would have worked much better if it was right after Church and Ruby Road, because it's very episode 2. It's very end of the world. Shakespeare Code. It just feels like that.
Yeah, it just feels like it flows from Church into this episode, and having that like 4-month gap in it just didn't quite work, I don't think.
No, not at all. I mean, what you were saying, Ryan, about the CGI mouths, it doesn't look great.
No.
But I think if you're here for good CGI, it's not the right place.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't bother me. I maybe it's bad, but I didn't really notice. I wasn't really looking at that and thinking this is going to affect my enjoyment of the story. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know whether you guys find this, but when you watch an episode of Doctor Who, you just kind of either have a good or a bad feeling about it as you're watching it. Like even if you can't put into words anything you feel about it, you just kind of either feel positively or negatively about a story as you're watching it. And I felt like with Space Babies, I was feeling negatively as I went through it, and with Devil's Chord, I was feeling more positively as I went through it. So that's just kind of where that initial impression comes through. I think it's purely that just feeling you get.
Yeah, it's just I just liked this one. And like same with Devil's Chord, there were some parts I actively disliked, but even then, even on the better parts, I was just like, I just wasn't feeling it as much. It just wasn't my scene. It just I think I'm calling it now though. All of us will prefer Boom to both of these.
Definitely. I'm already way more excited for Boom.
So
way more excited.
I mean, 73 yards as well. I've got no idea what that's about.
Yeah, like legit. When I saw the episode list and the synopsis of each of the episodes, like the very brief detail of each of the episodes, I would say I'm more excited for every single episode than the first 2. Like on paper, they always look like the least interesting 2 to me of the lot. So I'm kind of like, the rest of the series, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I think we already know so much about the Devil's Chord already as well.
Yeah.
It was very we can sort of guess what happens in this.
Whereas Boom, I feel like I know nothing about the actual plot apart from the Doctor stands on a landmine. 73 yards, we literally know. Yeah, it's Stephen Moffat. 73 yards, we know nothing about. Dot and Bubble is set in a bubble. That's about all we know. And there's the slug things, I think. Then there's the one in the historical one, and then there's the finale. So it's I don't know what goes on. It's really exciting. But Bill, where did you sit on Space Babies? Not one of your favourites necessarily. What did you think didn't work so much in this story?
I think it was just, I don't think there was anything wrong with it necessarily. I think it's just one where, I don't know, I suppose it goes back to what you were saying about having a feeling about certain stories. And I think for me, Space Babies just didn't gel with me in the same way that Devil's Chord and a few of the 60th specials did and stuff. It's just... But it was still it's not like the worst Doctor Who story ever. So I'm not. I mean, I've seen it twice, and I don't mind seeing Space Babies twice. So I don't have anything wrong with it in terms of I actively dislike it, but I just think that it was clearly just Russell just having a bit of fun, kind of trolling us, I suppose, almost. You know, I mean, some people are not going to like that. I think it's fine for Russell to just kind of just write something that is mainly about just being a bit daft and a bit silly, and you know, having like fart jokes and stuff like that, and just not kind of taking the show too seriously, because I suppose it doesn't always need to be taken that seriously at the end of the day. And as much as like I don't think Space Babies is really designed for us, you know, like long time adult fans, I think it is very much designed for the younger sort of children, you know, basically. I think it's got that appeal to young kids to, like, you know, here's a fart joke, here's Space Babies, and all this lot, and you know, and I think Russell knows that that is the kind of stuff that they're going to be interested in, and I'm sure it'll go down pretty well with that kind of audience.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, my niece, who's into Doctor, she loved both stories, and she especially loved Space Babies, and I can definitely see why. This is definitely more for children, especially. I can definitely see why young audiences, and my niece especially, would definitely be into that. I can definitely understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I don't want to like dump on the episode too much, but that's quite funny given the fart jokes in it. But I just didn't really like it very much. I just think the plot is pretty like average. Okay, so there's these abandoned babies. We kind of vaguely explore the whole thing about kind of, you know, being forced to have babies, but you know, there's no one to look after them, and the whole, you know, metaphor in that. And then kind of, oh, we're moving on from that. And then we've got the bogeyman, who's just a scary monster, generic scary monster that kind of means nothing. The Doctor chooses to save generic monster, scary monster thing, but then we don't get any like explanation of them or any motivation for them existing, or like, well, okay, they've been saved, what are they going to do now? Just keep running around screaming down in the space station? Like, we get nothing about that, and I find that a bit like, yeah, just a bit like, why do they not cover that in more detail? I don't know, it felt like it needed something like that. I really like Ncuti and Millie. I like the Doctor and Ruby, but I feel like they're a little bit too kind of almost over the top at the moment. Like every single scene they kind of go off going, oh my gosh, this is amazing, oh! And I just feel like they need a few more like calm scenes, quiet scenes, just like to show a bit more range in it. And like Ruby's just kind of really, whereas like someone like Donna, she always used to question everything, like, why the heck do you do that? Like, why is this a thing? Why does this work? Whereas I think Ruby's just kind of like, okay, cool, so like literally everything. And I just feel like I'd like her to be a bit more like questioning of the Doctor and of the stuff that he does and has, rather than just kind of blindly going along with everything.
I think Ruby at the moment is a bit of a Series 7 Clara.
Yeah. She's a mystery.
Nice and she's likable, but
she's a mystery box.
Yeah, she just sort of is there, and she's just a plot arc at the moment.
Yeah,
like she's likable enough, but yeah, I feel like next season, obviously, because we found out that she is in the season after all, maybe she'll get a bit more authority, you know, something like Series 8 Clara.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope so. And I mean, even just like in these first two episodes, she doesn't really contribute anything to resolving the plot of the story. Whereas like Rose has her moment in Rose where she saves the day. Amy has her moment in The Beast Below when she's like involved with saving the day. Like things like we've seen from companions in the past, and it feels like Ruby's just kind of there as a passenger to it all, and not really being involved and having that much character yet. As you say, apart from she's adopted, we don't know who her mother is. That's kind of like all we've really got to, and she gets on well with the Doctor and they like to have banter. That's kind of all I'm getting so far. And I really like the Doctor and Ruby. I really like their characters, but I just feel like we need a bit more depth to it, and I don't think we got that in either of these episodes so far. I think that was a little bit lacking. And just the other thing for me that I felt was really like jarring and unearned was the Doctor giving Ruby the TARDIS key at the end of the episode. I was like, that it took Martha like 7 episodes to get the TARDIS key, and we're just going, yeah, sure, you have it, no problem. Like, it just felt so like out of nowhere, we got to just tick this box off so that we can move on with the rest of the series. I don't know, maybe it's a consequence of having 8 episode series rather than 13, but I don't know. Did it feel really jarring to anybody else, or was it just me?
It did feel a tiny bit jarring, although not quite as jarring as that. Okay. This thing that's going to be in The Devil's Chord, where they explain how many months it's been since.
Yeah, what was going on there? 6 months late. Where's the 6 months gone? It was just totally bizarre choice to do that. Like, we've just missed the whole like initial development of the Doctor and Ruby's relationship because we skipped 6 months.
And that bit, I think there was a bit in the trailer where Carla and Ruby's mum was asked to tell the Doctor promise to keep her safe. I was expecting that to be at the end of this episode.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
And frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if they did that to give Big Finish leeway to do audio drama. Or
Big Finish. There was a party at Big Finish when they said 6 months later. They were like, yes, please, we can fill 100 stories in this slot.
You could hear them almost popping the champagne cork.
Yeah.
Like, yes,
we can start printing money. We've got so much coming in for that. Yeah, absolutely.
And honestly, I was just like, as soon as they said that in The Devil's Chord, I actually paused it and I went, what, months? It's been months! I was actually just couldn't believe it, honestly.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it was. So yeah, I don't know. There was a few things like that I just found a bit frustrating with this episode. And yeah, it's just not one that I'm going to rush to rewatch. I think ultimately, like, it's an okay episode of Doctor Who. It's not great. It's not classic by any means. It's just sort of like New Earth. Like, it's real average Doctor Who. Like, it's fine. There's the occasional funny moment in it, but I'm not really gonna come back to it anytime soon. So let's just quickly go around and give our ratings. Charlie, what did you say you gave? 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10?
A weak 8, I'd say.
Okay.
Like, there's some episodes I also give an 8 to, but there are different 8s. Like, they're up there.
Yeah, don't tell me you give Blink an 8 out of 10 as well or something.
Blink is 10. A weak of 10. Okay. To be fair.
Okay. Yeah.
To be fair, there's only like 3 strong 10s, but yeah.
I can guess what those are. Bill, what's your rating out of 10?
6.
Yep. Ryan?
Yeah, I think it'll be a 6. At times it can waver to a 5, but I'm sticking with a 6.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a 6 out of 10. Like, I feel it's okay, but I think I can't remember which you said, but I'm really glad that it wasn't the only episode released, because I feel like there would have been a much bigger general backlash if this had been the only episode released this week, and we would have gone, oh my gosh, this is a terrible start to the era. What is going on? Like, why did we do this? Like, come on, Russell, you're better than this. I don't know. I'm glad that they released 2. But let's move on to The Devil's Chord, which for 3 out of the 4 people here, I think was the better episode of the 2. It's okay, Charlie. You're allowed. We're all allowed our opinions here, and that's why we're allowed to hate Devil's Chord, hate Space Babies, and you're allowed to hate Devil's Chord. It's fine. And even next week, maybe one of us will absolutely hate Boom, and it will be like, what's going on? No, we're all gonna like Boom. So The Devil's Chord, episode 2, feels. I think when I was watching The Devil's Chord, I felt like this feels different to any Doctor Who I've watched before. Like, it really almost. Not quite a different show, but it felt so different. Like, whereas Space Baby was kind of quite standard Doctor Who to an extent, slightly childish Doctor Who, pretty basic Doctor Who, but like it felt very Doctor Who-y. Whereas like Devil's Chord is just wild for 50 minutes. It's just absolutely wild chaos with a load of music in it, was kind of the vibe. And as a whole, like I feel like maybe it's a bit of a mess as a story. I don't know, like the plot is basically like Maestro is trying to get rid of all music in the world because they own music, kind of are in command of music. And the Doctor has to stop Maestro because ultimately the world will just kill themselves because of no music. So that's basically the plot, right?
Kinda, a little bit.
And there's lots of great scenes and great moments, like the opening scene on the piano. And obviously running into the Doctor Who theme is just incredible. Like, I love that so much. That moment where they start playing canonizing the Doctor Who theme within the show is something I love. Even like playing it on the Doctor's jukebox in the TARDIS, so the Doctor listens to his own theme. And the fact that he acknowledges the non-diegetic music in the show as well. That So are we now to assume that the Doctor hears Murray Gold's score the whole time? Like, is that basically what he said in that scene?
Yeah,
it's possible. Well, maybe that he has music. Maybe the music we're hearing is what he thinks of in his own head. Maybe
that's it. Yeah, you're right. It's his internal musical monologue in his head is actually the soundtrack to the show. It's great. I love it. There we go. We solved that problem. And there's great scenes, but it's probably a bit of a mess of a plot. I don't know. Charlie, why is it worse than Space Babies?
All right. It was just disappointing to me because I expected this to be a really good episode. I thought this would be just before watching the episodes, I thought, all right, Space Babies will be like a 6 or a 7. Devil's Chord would be like a 9. I thought this would be a really strong one, and it wasn't. And I feel there were really good moments. Like there were some amazing moments, like you said, the opening scene with the piano going into the Doctor Who theme. It was great, and there were some really nice moments. Some cool plot arc furthering with Ruby and the whole snow again. That was cool.
Yeah, Carol the Bells and all that.
There were some nice moments, and the funny, awful Beatles song.
Yeah,
it was the whole Pyramids of Mars reference.
Oh yeah, totally a callback to that.
Reference.
Yeah. Yes.
Because it was intentional. It wasn't. Yeah. I thought that scene was quite cool, and there were some okay moments, but there was some that were I really didn't like, and it flipped between them so frequently that I just it was just so jarring that it ends up just lowering the average for me. Like the musical number at the end. Some liked it. I just think, all right, Russell Davies is doing more music stuff, and it's a bit camp, and it's a bit bombastic. But 3 episodes ago we had Spice Up Your Life. 3 episodes before that we had Rasputin. It's it's a bit much. Just play. Yeah, if you're gonna do that, do a Beatles song.
Yeah.
It was just a bit of a weird one. What was it? There's always a twist at the end. It's just
and it didn't seem to have any reason plot-wise to do it, apart from saying, "Oh, there's always a twist at the end of a Doctor Who episode," and "Oh, what about that Susan Twist woman?" And all that. But
yeah, and the whole the final battle as well with the music notes, I feel it's just dragged a little bit. It's just.
I feel like it would have been better if they use familiar music, recognizable music, rather than just random generic genre music.
Yeah, I just think if they used parts of the Doctor Who score, if they did I Am the Doctor or something, and they did some The Shepherd's Boy, that'd be incredible. And that would have been
an opportunity there, wasn't there, that they missed?
But I'm just sat there for 5-6 minutes just watching, piano music notes, and it's just kind of the same. And then one of the Beatles saves the day, or 2 of them, and then the Beatles are barely in the episode. I was expecting kind of a Beatles biopic almost, and
they really marketed it as a Beatles episode.
And they weren't really in it. They were at the start. They play their song. They go for 40 minutes, and 2 of them come back to save that. It's it just wasn't what I was expecting. It wasn't a horrendous episode. It has its moments. I like the whole 3 minutes completely mute scene. That was quite good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. There were some amazing moments, but there were some moments where what am I watching? And it fluctuated so much that I just didn't like it. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's fair enough. Yeah. That's why we're here, to share our thoughts on the podcast. So, Bill, you enjoyed it a bit more. What did you enjoy about this story? Let's look at the other side of the coin.
I mean, to be fair, I kind of see where Charlie's coming from in terms of how little the Beatles were actually used when it was marketed as a Beatles episode. So I actually can, now that you've said that, I can understand where you're coming from. But I still enjoyed just the fact that the Beatles were in a Doctor Who episode. I mean, that's something that I think the show, I'm very surprised the show's not done before, sort of thing. So it just, I think it just worked quite well because I just like that era of music, I suppose, and I just found the whole kind of plot of how the world has gone mad because there is no music around anymore. So it's gone all bleak and scary, and everyone's turning on each other and stuff. And how have the ultimate form of that in the nuclear apocalypse and everything, and you know how you have this whole culture of where you've got people like the Beatles still existing, but they're doing music just to earn a bit of money, and then they're not putting their heart and soul into it. And it's just I think it speaks a lot to how music can have that kind of impact on people, and you know it's and just kind of what emotions it can elicit and stuff and bring out in people. So I think that was handled really well. The whole apocalypse thing, yes, that was literally just taking it from Pyramids of Mars. I think Russell even confirms that. But you know, it's a good idea. I think it gets across to any new people watching the show just what exactly the stakes are. You know, if the Doctor and Ruby don't stop Maestro, then this is what the Earth is going to be like. And I think that it worked really well in Pyramids of Mars, and it still works now, nearly 50 years later in the Devil's Chord. So, you know, why not reuse it? The musical number, I think I was kind of expecting it to be like a case of that is how the Doctor defeats Maestro, or at the very least, like it happens when the Doctor and Ruby are trapped, you know, in that drum and stuff. And it could be almost like they're trapped in Maestro's own dimension for like a few minutes or something, which I think would have been really interesting to see. So I think it's a shame that we didn't get that. But even so, I think the musical number was still fine. I think it was obviously the very limited in terms of they couldn't easily just use a Beatles song because of various copyright licensing issues. But if they'd have been able to, then it would have worked a lot better, I suppose, because if you're going to make a big deal out of this being a supposedly Beatles episode, it makes sense to just, you know, just if that's going to be the main point of the marketing for this episode, then how come it doesn't really factor that much into it in the grand scheme of things? And I get that kind of thing. But I just feel like it just worked with me a lot better. Again, it's what you're saying earlier, Elliot, about the feeling of particular episodes. This one, unlike Space Babies, I was just enjoying because I just did, you know. I mean, it's sometimes difficult to put into words, really. But when you're watching something, you do just sometimes have that kind of feeling of, yes, I'm really enjoying this, or maybe I'm not enjoying this, or something like that. And I felt like I was enjoying the Devil's Chord, even if it's still not perfect and it's got its small amount of issues, I'd say. And I don't think, you know, it will be going to my top 10 favorite Doctor Who stories anytime soon, but it's still fine. I think it's fine. I think it was one that I was looking forward to more than Space Babies, and so I'm glad that wasn't, you know, like that kind of came true, and I didn't, you know, there was nothing major to worry about with the episode. But I'm sure there'll be much better episodes as we go along into the season.
Yeah, exactly. I think, you know, we definitely haven't seen, well, I hope we haven't seen the peak of the series yet. There better be some good stuff to come in the rest of the series, and I'm sure there's going to be. And so, Ryan, one of the interesting things I think about this story and what we're seeing in Doctor Who, sort of the new era, is almost like there's less rules in the show. We saw it with the Toymaker, this whole thing about opening up the legions and the, you know, the realms of gods and whatever. Like, we obviously saw that again in this episode with Maestro. We see, you know, like the scene when they go to present day London where it's destroyed, and then suddenly we're kind of pulled into what appears to be Maestro's realm, or sort of that kind of like that where there's just no rules, and where it's the rules of music and things. How do you feel about kind of taking those rules out of the show to an extent and allowing it to kind of be more over the top, more wild, more out there, rather than saying these are the hard and fast science fiction rules you can't break?
I'm honestly all here for it. Honestly, I like the fact that they're leaning towards a more supernatural fantasy element. And Russell did say, like, in an interview for the Devil's Chord, he was saying, like, whenever someone says, you can't do that, that's not how you should do it, that is all the more reason why you should do it. And it's kind of why he did that musical number at the end. And I'll just quickly touch on the musical number. It really reminded me a lot of that out of nowhere dance sequence, musical sequence in the Ferris Bueller's Day Off. At the middle, he just hijacks it and just does like a musical. It really reminded me of that. It's just like, this feels superfluous and makes no sense whatsoever. And it's so funny because this morning I was watching the movie Easy A, and they make reference to this, like say,
right.
I want an out of nowhere musical number that makes no sense whatsoever. And
that's what we had.
And that's what we got at the end. And I didn't mind it as pointless as it was. I did expect that to be how they defeated Maestro, but instead it was kind of similar to. It was like sort of like a musical note battle, which really reminded me a lot of that moment in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness film, where they use the two versions of Doctor Strange battle each other using magical music notes. It really reminded me of that. And, but I think, I guess I didn't mind it as a bit easy as it was at the end. I didn't mind as much, but in regards to the whole supernatural fantasy elements of it, I like that we are delving into this more. I think Russell said that with the giggle and reintroducing the toy maker, it allows them to kind of discard some of the rules slightly and allow to be a bit more open about a lot more of these concepts and ideas. And of course, that continued with the Church on Ruby Road with the goblins, and it's kind of confirmed that they were part of the Toy Makers Legions. And I'm glad that we were going into. I knew before the story that Maestro was going to be connected to the Toy Maker. Yeah. I always had a good feeling that they would be of the same species as the Toy Maker. I did not expect it to go as far as the Toy Maker being Maestro's dad. That really was surprising. And honestly, I was kind of like, you know what? Go for it. And I will say, Jinx Monsoon, amazing as Maestro.
100%. Highlight episode.
Yeah, so Jinx did such a phenomenal job. And now I am wanting more than ever is for Neil Patrick Harris and Jinx Monsoon to be the same story together. Honestly, Shooty Gatwa versus Neil Patrick Harris and Jinx Monsoon. That's what I call an episode, right?
Absolute chaos. It'll be absolute carnage. Like, it will almost be who can be the more loud and outgoing character on screen. Like, it'll be a competition between them all, basically.
Honestly, Russell, please get on it. That is just the ultimate. I think that will make it my favorite episode of the Shooty Gatwa era easily if that happens.
Yeah.
I think
100%.
I'm calling it now. Shooty's last episode there'll be some sort of team up between the Toy Maker, the Maestro, and whatever other sort of supernatural villains we get. And I think David Tennant will return.
He's obviously going to return. Of course he is. Russell can keep lying, but
I don't think he should. But I think David Tennant and possibly Catherine Tate will return, even for a cameo for Shooty's last episode.
They're going to turn.
Every beginning, so it kind of makes sense that they'll be there at his end. So it's possible.
100%.
Exactly. I just don't want another by generation.
No, I don't.
Well, they basically said that he can't do that anymore, which was the most bizarre bit of dialogue in one of the more bizarre bits of dialogue in this episode, where he basically said, "Oh yeah, that by generation happened. Yeah, it happened, but I couldn't do that again." Even though Russell was like, "Yeah, that's happened to every single Doctor ever." So I was like, "What are you chatting about?"
With him saying that happened to every Doctor, I wouldn't be surprised if he did that to troll with the fan base, to kind of throw them off a bit. And I think what he said about it split my soul in half, and that how he personally felt. I don't think that actually happened. I think it just sort of in a metaphorical sense.
Yeah.
I think, and I honestly really liked how it kind of puts the Doctor through the ring of having to go up against these gods, these beings, as Russell refers to them as the gods of chaos, which is actually a really good name, and it does have me even more intrigued about this the one who waits, the oldest one who was involved.
It's Susan. It's obviously Susan.
Oh man!
It's Susan. Susan Twist is actually granddaughter Susan, and she's going to turn up in the last episode and reveal herself and all of that.
It's probably Mrs. Flood as well. Is Susan?
Oh, so this is the problem. Like, is it Mrs. Flood? Is it Susan Twist / Mrs. Merridew / Susan Triad / whatever her name is?
Meep's boss.
Yeah.
Yes, the boss.
There's so many reference villains. We don't know which one is which.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, yeah, he's
gone a bit
too far on it.
Is it all one? Are they all separate? We don't know.
Yeah, and also the theories people put out there, like, is it Sue Tech? Is it the Beast? Or is it the Black Guardian? I don't think it's the Black Guardian. No way they're bringing the Guardians back. Especially because I think the Toymaker said that he vanquished all of them. So there's that. So yeah, I just love how they sort of deepen into this whole the pantheon of gods, and I'm hoping that it gives him more leeway to kind of said to bring back some of these gods, like the gods of Ragnarok, which I think is a concept. Or
they were referenced in the Giggle. We mentioned them in the Giggle for no apparent reason.
I would also like to see if they could bring back Fenric, because I think Fenric is kind of a godlike character. I would like to see that happen. So yeah, I think that was the thing that drew me the most to the Devil's Chord, and why I was able to enjoy it more, because of the fact that they were able to sort of let loose with all this sort of supernatural element with all these gods. And that was one of my favorite aspects about the Giggle, and why I enjoyed that story. And in a way, this story felt like a kind of quasi sequel to the Giggle in some aspects, which I really liked. And honestly, even though there was some stuff I felt could have been better, was some stuff that I thought, that's kind of pointless. At the end, I was like, okay, this is definitely more my jam now. After an intro with the church on Ruby Road and another 1.5 introduction again with Space Babies, Devil's Chord was like, okay, now it can begin. Now I can actually get into the swing of things. And honestly, I expected it to be that way. I always felt that Devil's Chord was going to be the one that was going to be like, okay, this is where the adventure starts. Because honestly, Space Babies, out of all of them, Space Babies was the one I was going to be like the least interested in. And I ended up kind of being right. And I'm hoping this is a sign of, the Devil's Chord is a sign of much greater things to come. I think 73 Yards is going to be another Wild Blue Yonder. Either that or Dot and Bubble. I think either one of those two is going to be the next Wild Blue Yonder. I'm calling it right now. It's got to be either one of those two.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the stories go, especially that one tiny bit of a leak in regards to the 2-part finale about what could be featured in it. I don't know. Am I allowed to say? Or
let's leave it. We'll leave it for now, just in case.
Yeah.
Because there's exciting stuff coming.
Some of the pictures that got leaked in the trailer. I think it was a trailer that kind of spoiled it. So I'll leave that for now.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, with I was also thinking with Boom, because I'm really looking forward to Boom, and just hearing having Stephen Moffat dialogue back. Because, like, I've always thought the most noticeable thing for me where you hear Stephen Moffat dialogue in a non-Stephen Moffat setting is in The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances. Because there's a very, defined way that Russell writes the Ninth Doctor for that whole season. And you can just hear, Moffat-y dialogue in all of those 2 episodes compared to the rest of the series. It sounds almost completely different. The way the Doctor talks, the sort of stuff he says, the way he acts, it's so different to everything else because Moffat just has such a sort of defined, unique style of writing, and I'm really looking forward to seeing Ncuti portraying that. I think in the episode it's going to be really, really interesting as well.
Yeah, I'm hearing in the trailer, which is clearly from Boom, with Ncuti saying, "I can turn this silly little battlefield of yours into dust in a heartbeat."
There we go.
That is all got me more excited for Boom, but I can't wait to see the video commentary afterwards. Because it has been confirmed there is going to be one afterwards for So,
hopefully with Stephen.
I think as well, Stephen Moffat has been out of Doctor Who for 7 years.
Yeah.
I'm sure he will have had a lot of ideas in 7 years.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to think this is his best one.
Yes, I hope so.
I think he's had 7 years to think about this, and he's finally back on Doctor Who. I really want him to do something well, because if I think if this is like the best rated episode of the season, and it's really well received, it would not surprise me if he gets like more episodes, maybe 2 for next season, 3 for the season after. Just
well, I'm pretty sure it's already very strongly rumored that he's written the Christmas special for this year, isn't it?
Really?
Joy to the World, because there was some interview where he said "boom" in it, and then also said "Joy to the World," and that's the rumored title for the Christmas special. So looks likely he's written the Christmas episode.
That's interesting. I would have thought RTD would do that.
I know, exactly.
I've heard rumors it's both of them writing it together.
The dream team.
Nice.
And that has me intrigued. Russell Stephen writing a story together, that is what I'm calling a winning combo right there. So
as long as Chris Chibnall isn't involved as well.
Well, we nearly got one. He was asked to write an episode, so we could have had a Chris Chibnall episode this season.
But speaking of Chris Chibnall, I will say this much. I like how Russell is sort of finding a way to use the timeless child concept, in the sense that the Doctor, he's like Ruby, and he doesn't know where he's from, and it's eating at him. I will say that emotional. I like how he's sort of, even though I'm not a fan of the timeless child concept, as we all know, I like how he's trying to use it in a more character emotional context, in the same way that he used the time war to propel 9 and 10's guilt. So I do the same here. So I will say, in a way, I'm glad that he's taking Chibnall's concepts and improving upon them. So it just goes to show you what. And I will say also very quickly, I know we talked about Space Babies, but even though I thought it was kind of okay. It's leagues ahead in terms of a good chunk of the Chibnall era, in terms of just writing and directing. It's definitely leagues ahead, and so at least we've got that one luxury from.
It's a different sort of episode, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the Devil's Chord is my least favorite of RTD so far. The only 2020's Chibnall episode that I think is better than it is Power of the Doctor. I was thinking about this. It literally goes RTD, Power of the Doctor, Devil's Chord, Chibnall. It's pretty insane.
I would watch Power of the Doctor over Devil's Chord, actually. I think I would slightly watch it over that. I will be honest. I mean, I think more time has gone on. I think I'm starting to like Power of the Doctor more, and I think it's a very high 8 out of 10. I don't think it's going to be like 10 out of 10, but very high 8, whereas Devil's Chord is like a weak 8.
Yeah, it definitely felt like Chris at least went out on a high with his final story, which was nice, rather than on a whimper, which it would have been if it was Legend of the Sea Devils.
I actually rewatched Power of the Doctor the other day. I can't believe how strong it is. I think it's insane that he pulled that off. It's incredible, really. I think I'd give it probably a week 9, to be honest.
Because it's got everything in it. There's so much thrown at it, and we've seen writers in the past not be able to deal with that. But I feel like Chris, in the most part, manages it, which is pretty impressive. So one of the last things I wanted to touch on before we sign off for today is, of course, the kind of all the little hints and the little arc that we've got going on for this season. So, Bill, we obviously saw the scenes with the snow, and there's this whole mystery about Ruby's mother. We've got the one who waits. We've got the various different sort of pantheon of gods and the legions of the Toymaker and all this kind of thing. We've got a lot of stuff going on. References to Susan in this episode quite pointedly. Where do you think this is all going? Like, do we think it's going to be, Susan is Ruby's mum, or is it going to be something completely different? How are you looking at it at the moment?
I'm not too sure, to tell you the truth, and I think that's what's so exciting is the fact that you can't really tell. It's not like how you had the whole Vault thing during Series 10, where it was clearly Missy.
That was so obvious. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's like it's the opposite of that. It's really not clear what is going on with any of this stuff. I do kind of like the idea that Susan Twist is playing a female version of the monk. I mean, I think that could be potentially quite interesting. I don't know about Ruby's mum because it's just I don't know. They could tie into something that's come before. Russell could decide to make her something completely brand new. She could be one of the pantheon of chaos gods, for we know. I mean, we just don't know. I just really, I don't think that we'll get all the answers to everything in this series finale. I think there is going to be some stuff lingering for season 2 and 3. I think because there's just so much that Russell would have to answer and explain. I know it's a 2-part finale, but even so, that would just not be enough time to, I think, do all of those ideas justice. So I think we'll find out who Ruby's mother is, certainly in that season finale. We might find out who Susan Twist is playing.
She's definitely in the finale as Susan Triad or whatever we're going to call her. We've seen clips of that in the trailer, so we know that much.
As for the other stuff, I mean, who knows? I mean, it's really difficult. For we know, they could literally have like David Tennant, Catherine Tate, Neil Patrick Harris all turn up in the finale or whatever. You just don't know what's going to happen. And I think that's exciting because the Chibnall era was not like terrible in some ways, but it's a very different feeling I get with this new era compared to that era, because you could, in some ways, I think like even with the Timeless Child, that had been leaked like months beforehand, and so people were kind of like, as much as it still divides people today, people were kind of expecting it in a way. Ultimately, whereas with all of this going on, all these mystery boxes that Russell's got for us, we don't know honestly where anything could go, because it could go in any direction. He could have it be that Susan Twist is playing Fenric or whatever, or it could literally be a brand new character. We just don't know.
Exactly. Absolutely, and I can understand RTD also not wanting to alienate newer audiences. So part of me does wonder whether some of these mysteries are just new characters that they're just teasing in advance, rather than it being a massive callback to the past. I don't know, and I know we certainly know from filming that some of the things are longer term, like we saw in The Devil's Chord that Harbinger survives at the end of the episode, the kid, and we know that. There's a film picture from season 2 of season 15, whatever you want to call it, of a billboard with Harbinger on it. So clearly he's turning up again in the next season. And I think there's also been filming pictures of Mrs. Flood being filmed in season 2, because I really don't think they're resolving that in this season. I think that's going to be left until the next series, because certainly I remember in the Unleashed episode for the Church on Ruby Road, Russell was kind of like, it's a long time till you'll find that one out. So it was sort of a bit of an odd one to even chuck into the Christmas special, but. Russell can't help but like tease a mystery and then kind of half give it away in an interview because he just can't help himself. I find it really quite entertaining. I don't know, Charlie, where are you sitting on all these mysteries? What are you most excited to see resolved?
I think it's got to be Susan Twist. Or
she's been in like 4 episodes now.
Yeah. Susan Twist. Who is that? And I think if it was like granddaughter, Susan Foreman, that'd be cool. I'd quite like that, especially if it is Carol Ann Ford playing her. I think I need to bring her back. It's basically the first companion ever. We've had Ian come back. Why not Susan as well?
Absolutely.
I mean, we had loads of old companions in Power of the Doctor, didn't we? We had Joe, Tegan, Ace, Ian. Why not bring back Susan? I think it'd be
absolutely. Just do it.
I think it'd be a very interesting dynamic if she is like a sort of villain. And it's Susan, and she doesn't recognise the Doctor at first, and I think it'd be quite cool. That or Mrs. Flood, because the fourth wall break is it was so strange. Never seen a TARDIS before. I just want to know who this is.
I know, and we've probably got to wait another year at least to find it out. It's so just annoying.
I think it'd be hilarious if we find it out in some sort of post-credit scene in Ncuti's last episode.
right to the end. You had to wait for this, but here's the answer, kind of thing. Yeah, it'd be quite entertaining.
Or if it's just like RTD stays on for the 16th Doctor, and we find out in that, and it's just a running gag at this point that we don't know who she is. Yeah. Because it's just like she hasn't even been referenced or anything in those first 2 episodes. So I'm intrigued whether we'll get some sort of reference to it at some point in this series, at least, even if it's not resolved. I don't know. See. Yeah. I mean, on that topic, has Ncuti been confirmed for season 3? Do you know? Not yet confirmed. No, I mean they haven't officially commissioned season 3, but I think it's happening. It's just they're going to finish season 2 in the next month or so filming, and then take a break for like a year, and then start filming season 3, which makes sense because they're finishing up on a season that's going out in a year. Like it'll be 2 years until they need season 3 ready. So I think as long as they I'm just happy they're getting out yearly seasons. Yes, I don't like 100%. Gaps like that. I just think season 1, season 2, season 3, get them out. And then, do you guys think Ncuti will come back for season 4, or will it be Troughton rule 3 seasons and out again? Because we haven't had a non-3 season Doctor since 2005.
I would like
to know, really.
I would like him to break that rule, because if he just does 3 seasons, it's going to feel like when you compare them all together, it would feel like a bit of a short episode run, even compared to Jodie Whittaker and Cole.
Yeah, about 25 episodes.
Jodie had 31. So yeah, it'd be like
25, 26 episodes.
26, 27 if you include specials. That's not that.
I would like to see him break that rule, and I don't know if we'll have, but and if he does stay on for a bit longer, there's a part of me that wants Ruby and the new companion that Barada Sethu is going to play in season 2. I like them to stick around for his entire run, because I feel like I don't know, because I don't know how the new companion for season 2 is going to be, but Ruby especially feels so tied to what's going on that I feel like she kind of needs to stick it out a bit. It was one of the reasons why I was a bit bummed out that Amy and Rory didn't stick until the end of Matt Smith's run, because they're so tied to his Doctor, and only to leave halfway into season 7. It was kind of a bit of a missed opportunity there. So I hope they managed to sort that out here.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, we haven't done it yet, so let's just finish up by giving our scores for the Devil's Chord. We didn't do that one. So Bill, we'll start with you. What was your rating out of 10 for the Devil's Chord?
Well, it's interesting because I think I've gone with the opposite of what Charlie's scores are. So I'd give the Devil's Chord 8 out of 10. Okay, Charlie?
6. A strong 6. I'd push it to a 7 possibly, but a strong 6.
Right. Ryan?
8.
Okay.
I think 8, but still an 8.
Yeah, I think I'm going like, I don't know, 7, 7.5, something like that. It's better than Space Babies, and it's fun, but it's not amazing. I think is probably the way to sum it up. And I would say we're all a lot more excited for next week than this week, I think, and the rest of the series generally. So.
Yeah. One final thing, just a little theory. I'm putting it out there. Someone mentioned it to me, and I think it's an interesting theory. And I won't be surprised if the one who waits is actually another version of the Doctor, but when they were like the Timeless Child before one of the Timeless Child incarnations.
Okay.
And that is the one who waits. I wouldn't be surprised if Russell's like, okay, we got the Timeless Child. Maybe I could use it to do something weird, like an incarnation before Hartnell was apparently this immortal being. Who knows? So
and maybe that'll push the Doctor to go and open that fob watch finally with all of the Timeless Child memories in it, because that was a plot device that just got dropped completely for no reason. Anyway, we're not here to slag off Chris Chibnall episodes today. We've done it a little bit, but I feel like we've kind of restrained ourselves, so it's good. Well, that's just about all we have time for on this edition of KerVAM. My thanks to Charlie, Ryan, and to Bill. We will be back again next week to review Boom. It's going to be a big explosion of an episode. I'm really, really excited for it. Stephen Moffat back writing Doctor Who. It's just going to be a great, great time. So that's just about it from this podcast. Remember to check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, and on Twitter at KerVAM Pod. But for now, from me, Charlie, Ryan, and Bill, it's goodbye for now.